I asked my team lead if I could leave 30 minutes early to pick up my daughter from school. He looked me dead in the eye. You should have thought about that before you had a kid you couldn't manage. Then he took away my hours for the week. I didn't argue. I just quietly called a reporter I'd been avoiding for months. It started 2 years ago in Des Moines, Iowa. I was 38, working as a shift supervisor for a large retail chain. You'd know the name, but I'll leave it out for now. Just imagine the place where people buy in bulk, get their tires changed, and wait in endless lines with screaming kids. That's where I was stuck, trying to keep my life from unraveling. My daughter, Taylor, had just turned 10. I'd been a single dad since her mom walked out when she was 4. She couldn't handle the pressure of parenting and left one night after an argument, left a note, and never looked back. I didn't chase her. Taylor was mine, and I wasn't giving her up. The thing is, I worked hard. I showed up, covered 6 shifts, picked up extra weekends. Never once showed attitude. But I was just invisible, especially to our team lead, Brandon. Brandon was the kind of guy who wore fake smiles and had that slick back haircut that made him look like he watched too much cable news. Late 30s, no kids, lived with his girlfriend but flirted with every cashier like he was God's gift to retail. He didn't like me. That much was clear. Maybe because I didn't kiss up like others. Maybe because I kept to myself. I don't know. But he always gave me the worst shifts, weekends, nights, holidays. I didn't complain because I needed the job. I needed the health insurance. I needed to be able to afford Taylor's asthma meds. Then one Thursday in September, things hit a point. Taylor's school called around 11 a.m. She had a stomach bug and was in the nurse's office. No one could reach her emergency contact, me. I was out on the floor helping unload a pallet of detergent. When I finally checked my phone, I had 3 missed calls and 2 voicemails. I ran to the break room and called the school back. They said they'd hold her for now, but I needed to come by 3 p.m. or they'd have to call child services. That's the law. I checked the time. It was 1:40 p.m. I approached Brandon at the front kiosk. He was chatting with one of the teenage cart guys about a football game. I waited for a pause. Brandon, hey, sorry to bug you. My kid's sick, the school needs me to pick her up by 3. I just need to leave 30 minutes early. I can make up the time tomorrow or Saturday. He stared at me. Didn't even blink. Just gave me that smug half grin he always wore when he was about to say something nasty. You should have thought about that before you had a kid you couldn't manage, he said. I blinked. I'm sorry? You heard me, he said, still smiling. Your poor planning isn't my emergency. And since you can't commit to your full shift, don't bother showing up this weekend either. I'll fill your hours with someone who can actually work. He turned his back on me. I stood there stunned. I couldn't afford to lose those hours. That was half my week's pay. Groceries, bills, Taylor's meds. And on top of that, the insult. Like I was irresponsible just for having a kid and needing to care for her. But I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't go over his head. Not yet. I went back to the locker room, clocked out, and got to my daughter just before 3. She was curled up on the cot in the nurse's office, pale and sleepy. The nurse gave me a look that said everything. You almost didn't make it. That night, while Taylor slept on the couch with a bowl next to her, I sat on the floor with my laptop. And that's when I saw the email. It had been sitting in my inbox for months. A local reporter, Rachel, had contacted me after someone mentioned I worked at the store. She was writing a piece on labor abuse and wage theft. She wanted to hear about working conditions, shift pressures, and retaliation. Back then, I ignored her. I didn't want to rock the boat. That night, I responded. Hi, Rachel. I'm ready to talk. I've got something you'll want to hear. I hit send. That was the start. Over the next 2 weeks, I met with Rachel 3 times. We sat at a diner off I-235. She was younger than I expected, but sharp. Knew how to ask questions that got past my instincts to stay quiet. I told her about the unpaid overtime. The shift cuts for people who had to leave for family. The way Brandon manipulated the schedule to favor his favorites. I told her about the safety violations, how the loading dock door had been broken for months, even after a kid slipped and twisted his ankle on wet concrete. I showed her emails, screenshots of texts. Even one where Brandon said, people who need to leave early for sick kids need to consider other careers. Rachel nodded and took notes. She said she'd been trying to build this story for over a year, but most employees were too scared to speak. I wasn't anymore. Then she asked the big question. Would you go on the record? I paused. My name in print would mean the end of my job. Brandon would find a way to push me out. Or worse, blacklist me. But I looked down at my hands. They were rough, scarred from years of warehouse work. I looked at my phone, at the picture of Taylor asleep on the couch, hugging a pillow. Yeah, I said. Use my name. The article dropped 2 weeks later. Front page of the Sunday paper. Retail giant accused of wage theft and retaliation. You should have thought about that before having a kid, manager allegedly told worker. My photo was there, grainy but real. My words. My story. Brandon's name too. And that's when all hell broke loose. The article exploded. By Monday morning, I had over 100 messages on my phone. Most were from people I hadn't talked to in years, former co-workers, cousins, even a guy I used to sit next to in community college. They all said the same thing. I saw the article. I can't believe you went public. Good for you. Some were brave enough to say what I didn't. Brandon is a piece of trash. Always has been. But not everyone was supportive. By the time I showed up at work Monday at 6 a.m. for my shift, I knew something was off. The parking lot was half empty. Nobody made eye contact. I clocked in and walked to the back room. The assistant manager, Keisha, was waiting for me. She didn't smile. Hey, just a heads up, she said in a low voice. Corporate called. They're flying in tomorrow. They're not happy. About the article? I asked. She nodded, biting her lip. They want to talk to everyone, especially Brandon. But you, they're watching you close. Be careful. I thanked her and started stocking shelves. My hands were shaking. I knew it was coming, but hearing that corporate was on its way made it real. Brandon didn't show that day. He worked from home. Classic. But on Tuesday when I came in, I saw him in the break room, pacing and whispering on his Bluetooth. He wouldn't even look at me. I was pulled into an HR meeting around 10 a.m. It was me, the district manager, and some guy from corporate named Alan. Alan had cold eyes and a legal pad full of notes. He didn't smile once. Mr. Levin, he began, can you confirm that everything you told the reporter is true? Yes. All of it? Yes. Do you have proof? I pulled out a folder. Printed emails, screenshots, time cards, photos of broken equipment. I slid it across the table. Alan flipped through it silently for 5 minutes. He didn't ask another question. Just said, that'll be all for now. I left the room and went straight to the break room. People stared. Some looked at me like I was a hero. Others avoided me like I had a disease. Brandon still hadn't spoken a word to me. By Friday, it was official. Brandon had been placed on leave pending investigation. But he wasn't fired. He got a lawyer. And word started spreading that he was telling people I lied. That I doctored the screenshots. That I was unstable and had always had problems with authority. I knew it was only a matter of time before he came after me harder. Then the email started. I got one from a random address. No name, just the message, you think you're safe? You're not. They'll bury you. I got another that just said, you should have kept your mouth shut. I knew it was him. He'd done it before. Anonymous feedback forms with comments like, some people here are too soft for real work, that mysteriously appeared after we spoke up in meetings. But this time he'd made a mistake. I had a cousin, Tyler, who worked in cybersecurity in Chicago. I forwarded him the emails. 3 hours later he called me. Yeah, these are from him, Tyler said. Same IP address that links to his Wi-Fi router. Dumb move. Want me to trace more? I said yes. That night I emailed Rachel again. I sent her the anonymous threats. I told her Brandon wasn't backing off, even after being investigated. She replied almost immediately. Let's do another story. This time it wasn't just me. 4 other employees agreed to go on the record. One woman, Denise, said Brandon once threatened to write her up if she left early to check on her son after a car crash. Another guy, Ronnie, said Brandon changed his hours on the system without telling him, then wrote him up for a no-show. Rachel published the second article a week later. Retaliation and threats. Manager under fire after whistleblower speaks out again. That's when the company finally cracked. Brandon was fired. Not resigned. Not mutual agreement. Fired. The article said so. The store released a statement saying they were reviewing internal policies and taking employee concerns seriously. But here's the twist, I didn't feel better. I thought I would. I thought I'd feel vindicated. But instead, I got called into another meeting with HR. This time with a lawyer present. They said they wanted to make things right. They offered me a severance package. 6 months of pay. But I had to sign an NDA. No more talking to reporters. No suing. No statements. Just quietly leave. I didn't know what to do. I needed the money. I had rent. Taylor's medical bills. But if I signed that paper, everything I'd fought for, everything I risked, it would all go away. buried under a paycheck. I told them I needed time. That night, I sat with Taylor on the couch while she watched cartoons. I kept looking at her face. So innocent. So trusting. I thought about what kind of man I wanted her to see me as. I didn't sign it. I told Rachel instead. We published a third story, Offered Silence. Whistleblower rejects NDA after speaking out. That's when things really got dark. After that third article went live, my life turned upside down. At first, it felt like I'd done the right thing. My phone blew up again. More workers from other stores started reaching out. People from Omaha, St. Louis, Minneapolis. Same chain. Same problems. Same retaliation. The media storm grew fast. It wasn't just a local story anymore. It was on national news. They called it the Midwest Whistleblower. One reporter even joked that I'd be the face of labor rights for the year. But no one warned me what that kind of attention would really cost. A week later, I was fired. The company claimed I had violated internal policies and created a hostile environment. No mention of the whistleblowing. No mention of the stories. Just a clean break. Legal. Quiet. Cold. I walked out of that building for the last time with a box of my things and no job. Then came the lawsuit. Not from the company. From Brandon. He sued me for defamation. Claimed the stories had ruined his career, cost him job offers, and put his mental health in danger. I couldn't believe it. After everything he did, he was the victim? I had to hire a lawyer. I emptied my savings. Took out a credit card just to pay the retainer. Taylor's after-school program? Gone. We had to cut corners. I sold our second car. Started doing temp jobs. Assembly line stuff. Night shifts. Rachel offered help, but I told her no. I didn't want charity. I wanted justice. The court process dragged for almost a year. Brandon's lawyer was slick. Kept trying to twist my words, claiming I had a personal grudge, that I'd embellished for attention. But every time they pushed, I pushed back. I had receipts, emails, witnesses. Those other employees came through. One by one, they testified. And then something happened I never expected. Brandon's ex-girlfriend showed up. She didn't testify in court, but she sent an affidavit through her lawyer. Said he bragged to her about putting that single dad in his place. Said he laughed when he found out I was struggling to pay for my daughter's meds. Even admitted he sent me the threatening emails from a burner account while drunk. That was the nail in the coffin. The judge ruled in my favor. Case dismissed. Brandon was ordered to pay part of my legal fees. It wasn't everything, but it was enough to breathe again. I thought that would be the end of it. But karma had more to say. A few months later, I got a call from a friend who still worked at the store. She told me Brandon had been trying to get hired in other cities, Phoenix, Denver, Salt Lake. But every time a company looked him up, they found the articles. Found his name attached to whistleblower retaliation and employee abuse. He was blacklisted. Last I heard, he was doing odd jobs. His girlfriend left him. Word is he moved back in with his parents in Wisconsin. But that's not the revenge that mattered to me. You want to know what hit him hardest? The final article Rachel published. It was a year after the first one. A recap. A where are they now kind of piece. It was titled, He Chose His Daughter. He lost his job. He changed everything. There was a picture of me and Taylor at the local park. She was laughing, climbing the monkey bars. I was sitting on the bench, watching her, smiling for the first time in a long time. The article got shared everywhere. Within 2 days, I got job offers. Real ones. One from a union office in Kansas City. Another from a workers' rights nonprofit in Chicago. They said they needed people like me, people who'd been in it, lived it, and still stood tall. I took the job in Chicago. It wasn't retail. It was advocacy. I started helping other workers file complaints, organize, protect themselves. I got to use everything I'd been through for something real. Taylor and I moved into a small apartment on the south side. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. She's older now. 13. A little smarter, a little sharper. She still remembers that day I came home early from work when she was sick. She says that's when she knew I'd never let her down. But she doesn't know the full cost yet. One day I'll tell her. Maybe when she's old enough to understand how far a man will go when someone threatens his child. Brandon tried to destroy me. Quietly and then loudly. But in the end, he's the one who lost everything. I lost a job. He lost his name. He lost his future. And me? I got my daughter's respect. I got peace. And that's more than he'll ever have.